Do you want to know what's next for Hedera Hashgraph's HBAR's price? Well, we've got you covered in this video. I'm going to do my best to give you my technical forecast of what is to come for Hedera Hashgraph and how I end up with that forecast, how I end up at that forecast. So do not in any way, shape or form take this as financial advice. If you do so, you do so at your own peril. The cryptocurrency market can be a volatile time or a volatile place at the best of times. But what I hope to do in this video, what my aims are in this video, is to give you my perspective on what I think is to come for Hedera Hashgraph, or HBAR, the token, from a price point of view. So this is going to be a very technically focused video. Technical just meaning we're going to be technically assessing the charts. And I'm going to be showing you where I think Hedera Hashgraph is in relation to how markets typically move. And in our market mastery course, we like to break the markets down into 4 phases. And I think Hedera is in that kind of phase 1, or what the likes of perhaps Wyckoff would have called it, accumulation. We think Hedera is in an accumulative phase, that it's on the cusp of breaking out of with this recent move that we've seen. And ultimately after that phase 1, that base, you then do see the uptrend sort of take hold. And what we're going to do is we're not just going to show you the schematics and relate that to Hedera Hashgraph's price. We're also going to be showing you lots of charts that we predicted here on Allincrypto, certainly behind the doors of my Patreon, in the form of the stock market, that have actually gone on and done very well. And we'll show you examples of markets moving in 4 phases, just so that everybody's kind of up to speed and on board with it, if you will. So what I want to do first of all, and a good place for me to start, is with the Hedera Hashgraph chart, which has had a spectacular move since we looked at this falling wedge. So we gave a number of falling wedges. There was about 15 of them, all present across the crypto space. And we said you were going to see a pretty momentous move to the upside out of this, in the same way that back in 2019, I predicted a similar thing for Ethereum Classic, which I'll show you very quickly just to put a capstone on the points around falling wedges. You know, this was Ethereum Classic. This was a schematic that we looked at, and you can see we've seen a similar sort of run for Hedera Hashgraph HBAR. So really, what this video is going to be about is what's next. You know, what's coming next for Hedera Hashgraph. And hopefully, we're going to be asking and answering that question. And when we look at Hedera Hashgraph, and we like to typically do it as it relates to market cycles on a weekly time frame, we think what you're looking at is very much just a basing range, an accumulative range that is taking place. And not only did you have this falling wedge, you also had your support that came into play here that, of course, you've bounced off of. So let's take a step back. We like to break the markets down into 4 phases. I'm going to throw up a very kind of basic schematic on the screen, and hopefully you guys have all got that in front of you. We've got phase 1, which is our base, phase 2, our uptrend, phase 3, our top, and phase 4, which is our downtrend. We've derived this way of looking at the markets through the likes of what Wyckoff spoke about in regards to his 4 phases of a market, which involve accumulation. Following accumulation, there's a markup phase, which is our phase 2 uptrend. Then there's distribution. We've all seen the schematics for the distribution schematics and the accumulation schematics of Wyckoff. We'll overlay an accumulation schematic on Hedera's price today, giving us further confirmation in regards to where we think Hedera is in a bigger picture view. And then after distribution, which is phase 3 for us, you have that markdown, which is our phase 4 downtrend. And rather interestingly, on the topic of Wyckoff, if we overlay or put onto the screen right now a Wyckoff accumulation schematic, you can see it very much resembles Hedera's price today. And after accumulation, you get the markup, the uptrend. Typically, retail participation doesn't come until the sort of phase 2 or the markup, if you will. So we teach something that breaks the market down into 4 phases. We very much think Hedera is in phase 1. Wyckoff would have said himself a very similar thing, and people only talk again about the accumulation distribution, but there's 4 phases that kind of follow that. And actually, also to compound everything, when you look at Hedera Hashgraph in the eyes of the Wall Street cheat sheet, and we've done all this previously when we're speculating on this bottom range, and we've had some positive price action to sort of confirm it all, you can see exactly what it is we're looking at. And that last pullback was really disbelief. And we're now entering what we look at as phase 2, the markup, or a good time, essentially, we could really break it down to for Hedera. So what I want to do before we go any further is just sort of prove to you guys in ways that we've done previously that markets do indeed move in 4 phases. Now, this is HubSpot. They're actually a great company. I've started using them myself. But you can see very accurately how your 4 phases of a market play out here. We do teach as well. If you guys haven't considered becoming a Patreon, do so. I don't think there's anybody in my Patreon that hasn't done well on the back end of the moves that we've recently seen for numerous cryptocurrencies, not just Hedera. There's a link to that in the description. Get on board. I'll be doing a workshop on all of this next week at some point. You'll also unlock weekly meetings with me, etc., including my portfolio, which we're going to be going over tomorrow. But you can see in the form or through the lens of HubSpot, and this actually made our target from this sort of phase 1 base that we had inverse head and shoulders perfectly, and look at where you sold off twice now. You can see HubSpot is a great example of how markets move in 4 phases, and we think Hedera is in your sort of phase 1 going into phase 2. You've got Palantir, Peter Thiel. You can see you've got your 4 phases very much playing out here: 3, 4, back into 1, and then 2. We do have a higher technical target for Palantir. I know I've got lots of Patreons that are a big fan of it. And of course, Spotify is one that we highlighted a long time ago. And this kind of range here for Spotify is very akin, I guess, to what the likes of Hedera Hashgraph is in, and perhaps reflective or signaling the direction that it may be now about to embark on. So if we throw up once again Hedera Hashgraph with our schematic of 4 phases of a market, where would you suggest that Hedera Hashgraph is in? If we also add Wyckoff's accumulation schematic, where would you suggest Hedera Hashgraph is in relative to price? So if we then can agree that Hedera is in phase 1 or an accumulative phase, likely actually just broken out of that phase, and you likely will get a pullback of some form into prior resistance, now finding you a support, then that means we've got markup or phase 2, the bull market, really to come ahead of us. And I think the reason I wanted to make this video at a time that I did was because I'm seeing a lot of anxiety in regards to the move that Hedera Hashgraph has just seen. People are remembering what happened on the BlackRock news, and they're getting very scared in regards to a similar thing taking place and all those gains being wiped away. However, I think when we overlay Hedera on the backdrop of the space more broadly, it's a very different story. Bitcoin has started that next leg, as predicted here on the channel, that we were looking at on the pullback. And ultimately, that's going to be the cover that Hedera needs to advance into phase 2, the markup phase, and see that continuation to the upside. Where exactly Hedera's price is going to go, we're unsure yet, because there's no sort of technical patterns for us to look at. We could look at potentially a double bottom here, and maybe we do that on a shorter date. We did have the falling wedge. You've now made that target. There is potentially this big double bottom here that ultimately would give you, just for argument's sake, around about a $54 Hedera price, but we can look at that at another video perhaps. What I want to focus on in this one is Hedera in relation to market cycles and where it's at and where I believe it's going, and that is very much to the upside. We can start to look at technical price predictions once there's technical patterns that generate them, but I very much do think there's a confluence of things here. Phase 1, accumulation. Also, this is very much a double bottom. A range that is likely to break to the upside, just like we've seen many ranges come before it. Some of the ones that we called here on Allincrypto is the likes of Galaxy. You can see this is its phase 1 kind of accumulative range. Breakup, retest, very common on the breakout, and then continuation. This, of course, is Synchronology Financial. Many of you wouldn't have heard of these stocks, but really it's unimportant actually what these stocks are or what they do, more so the technical cycles that we're looking at and relating that to Hedera. You can see this was its sort of basing range. You get a break and then you get an uptrend that ensues phase 2 or markup. Of course, Robinhood is a recent one for us. We were looking at this. And there's many that are breaking out. You know, one that recently broke out was, of course, Toast. A bit of a squeeze in here and then continuation. And this is very much the path forward that Hedera has ahead of it. This entire base, this entire bottom, really for me is just a range that is ultimately going to lead now to continuation. And when you look at the volume profile, you'll take a key level, like I thought we'd have had over here, but I think there was a bit of a fake out here, a divergence, if you will, and back within the range. This is volume that very much supports the breakout of this range and that broader phase 2 that we think is now ahead of it. And what we've done in this video is we've shown you Hedera in relation to what we like to teach in our market mastery course, what the likes of Wyckoff taught, and we've given you plenty of examples of other charts, and we could give you many more if people want a video going into more detail on everything. Perhaps we will produce one. We are going to do a workshop. We do already have a course out on some of the principles that we teach in regards to how markets move. Because if you can suss that out, you've really got an insight that I think many people don't have. They try and overcomplicate things. I don't think you need to do that. I think you just need to understand how markets work, and how markets work in relation to Hedera is we very much think it's just waking up, and that there's a great time ahead of it in the form of phase 2, an uptrend, a markup, whatever you want to call it. And we can start to look at technical targets. We looked at one very briefly there of 54 cents, very quickly, very rough, that can ultimately see Hedera fulfill that prophecy of how markets move and work. So that is it from me, ladies and gentlemen. Please share this video around. If anybody's unfamiliar with my channel, do become a subscriber. Like and a comment is always appreciated. We also have a Twitter. We're probably one of the biggest news outlets when it comes to Hedera Hashgraph that there are, and you should be on board with that wave. That's it from me, guys. I'm going to love and leave you. Let me know your comments in the comment section. Consider becoming a patron, and I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks for watching. See you soon.